Hi, it's Jael from Cell-Based Nutrition. Let's talk about sickle cell. Sickle Cell Awareness Month may be over, but the reality of living with this condition go far beyond when the calendar changes. Approximately 7 million people worldwide and about 18,000 people in the UK continue to face pain, fatigue, and stigma as a result of their sickle cell disorders. In this video, I will cover what life looks like with sickle cell beyond the Awareness Month, and I will also share practical well-being and nutrition tips to help you best manage your condition. When we think about sickle cell, we think about pain, and the pain is chronic. There are acute bouts of pain, which are called crises, and this is when the red blood cells harden, stiffen, and block blood vessels, starving tissues and organs of oxygen, of iron, and of course blood flow. And this causes excruciating pain. Sickle cell crises can last from a few minutes to a matter of weeks. And the consequences of longer crises take longer to resolve. There is also chronic pain that comes with sickle cell. The repeated blockages in the blood vessels can cause damage to tissues and also to bone. This can cause degeneration. There's a condition in sickle cell called avascular necrosis. Necrosis is the death of bones, in particular in the shoulders and in the hips, but AVN can affect any bone in the body that has experienced repeated sickling. On top of the pain, or alongside the pain, is the fatigue. Fatigue can be caused by a number of issues, predominantly anemia, because when you have sickle cell, your red blood cells break down faster. You also, because it's a deformity of the hemoglobin is a substance in red blood cells that carries oxygen around and that carries iron around. So most people with sickle cell will have some sort of anemia that goes with their condition. If you have thalassemia or sickle beta thalassemia, thalassemia means that you will also have smaller and fewer red blood cells, also causing anemia. Whichever way the anemia is caused, it causes fatigue. It also means that we are more immunocompromised and more susceptible to catching infections, viruses, etc., etc. It's easy, of course, to say that the worst symptom is the pain, and it is. However, the daily fatigue is something that really affects me. No matter how much sleep that you get, and I prioritize sleep. I'm a sleep hygiene specialist, and I have performers on how to optimize your rest and your sleep. But with sickle cell, and also with other chronic illnesses, the sheer effort that it takes from the body to be able to get through a day filled with pain means that sleep sometimes isn't enough to replenish the energy that it takes just to survive every day. Another element of sickle cell is the unpredictability of the condition. Sometimes a crisis can be predicted. It is very important for us to know what our triggers are. I can sense when my body is feeling run down. I can sense when I've pushed myself too far. And I can, most of the time, predict when I am getting to the point where I'm going to sickle or I'm going to have a crisis. However, sometimes sickle cell crises can come out of left field. I could be doing all of the right things. I could be on a roll of getting 8 hours plus sleep a night, drinking plenty of fluids, wonderful electrolyte balance, eating well, resting well, being warm, not being stressed, and I could still have a crisis. And it's that unpredictability of not knowing sometimes when your body is going to go into an acute bout of pain that can make living with this condition extraordinarily difficult. In a recent LinkedIn post, I discussed the difficulties of navigating sickle cell in both the education system and also in the workplace. So I have experience on both sides. Of course, growing up, I was a student with sickle cell. And then at the age of 22, I became a teacher, also with sickle cell. It's an extremely difficult condition because it's invisible. We know that systemic ableism exists with virtually all disabilities, but having a condition that you cannot see and where you have to rely on believing the person who has the condition, for them to tell you when their body's at capacity, when their body's in pain, when their body is fatigued, when their body has had enough. It can be a very difficult condition simply because of other people's skepticism and their refusal to believe. You can't see what my blood is doing on the inside of my body. You can't see the organ damage. You can't see the anemia. You can't see the bone degeneration, but I can feel it. And there have been many times that despite me advocating for myself, I haven't been believed. Whether it's been in school when I have wanted to opt out of PE lessons, especially in winter, especially outside, when absolutely no provisions have been made for me and my condition, whether it's at work and needing extensions in deadlines or needing reasonable adjustments, which I am entitled to by law, or whether it's navigating time off, hospitalizations, hospital appointments. There's several appointments that come with having sickle cell. You have to see your hematologist regularly. You may have to see your GP regularly to get your medications. And because sickle cell causes several other issues in the body, you have referrals to so many different other hospital consultants. You may be seen by orthopedics, you may be seen by physiotherapists, and trying to get a school or workplace to understand that it is a reasonable adjustment for people to be able to attend their medical appointments. It has been fraught with a lot of difficulty. I wouldn't be doing this video justice if I didn't talk about the injustice and the stigma attached to getting medical help for sickle cell, for many sickle cell warriors. Now, there are some wonderful medical professionals who have compassion and who have knowledge and care for their sickle cell patients. However, we do face an awful lot of stigma, in part because it's an invisible condition, in part because there is a lack of understanding about the severity of the condition, and also because there are some stereotypes that some medical professionals hold about people with sickle cell disorder. And this has to stop. It has to stop because at the thick edge of the wedge, sickle cell can be fatal. Sickle cell has a number of complications, the most serious being stroke and organ failure. So if a person is in an acute crisis and they're seeking medical help and they do not get pain relief early enough, they do not get oxygen early enough, they do not get fluids early enough, fatalities occur, which are completely avoidable. It is important for sickle cell warriors to learn about their condition, to learn their own triggers, to learn what their body responds to when they are in pain so that they can advocate for themselves. But it is also extremely important for sickle cell warriors to have a community around them, friends and family who also understand the condition, understand the severity of the complications, and can also advocate on their behalf, especially if they are in an acute crisis situation. Support networks also go beyond the hospital. Living with an unpredictable chronic pain condition that affects your immunity, affects your joints, affects your well-being, also affects your mental health. It can be very isolating living with sickle cell, and it would be wonderful if all sickle cell warriors had a group of people, a village, a tribe behind them, standing next to them, who can understand and empathize and empower and support them. As a naturopathic nutritional therapist who lives with sickle cell disorder, I have to talk about nutrition. Hydration is extraordinarily important. Most people, when they think of hydration, they just think about water. But we have to be a lot smarter than that. We have to think about how the fluids that we take in are going to get into our blood cells. Electrolyte balance is extremely important. Mineral water, spring water, adding additional electrolytes to our water, adding supplements to our water is extremely important. Drinking more than the average. The average is supposed to be about 2 litres of water roughly a day. Most sickle cell warriors, unless of course they have additional kidney complications and they're on dialysis or kidney medication, and so fluid retention, fluid overload could be a problem for them. But if that's not the case for you, staying hydrated is extremely important. It helps prevent our red blood cells from dehydrating, from hardening, and of course from getting stuck. When we're having a sickle cell crisis, our blood is a lot more viscous, it's thicker. So drinking water will help to thin it out, which will mean hopefully less blockages. Drinking lots and lots of water is hard. So we can also supplement it by making sure that we're consuming over and above the amounts of fruit and vegetables that are usually recommended. So lots of fruit, lots of green leafy vegetables, melons, cucumbers, peppers. All of these have water, or have are water-based fruits and vegetables. We can also eat our water. You know, we can make soups and stews and broths, and that can also count to our fluid intake. Of course, you need a very healthy, balanced diet, lots of protein, so our body can use the amino acids to rebuild red blood cells, as our body is doing this constantly. Also, as many sickle cell warriors and their caretakers and their family and friends will know, when you have a sickle cell crisis, it weakens the body, especially if we're hospitalized for long periods of time. So muscle wastage is a big concern. So protein helps to protect and prevent that. Also, anti-inflammatory foods. We really need to eat foods that can help our body mop up all of the oxidative stress, and mop up all of the impact of our red blood cells breaking down so regularly. Now, it might seem strange that I'm about to talk about exercise, considering that we're discussing a chronic pain condition, but gentle exercise and movement is important. It's important for breath work, and oxygenating our body, and it's also important for circulation. There are some people who have sickle cell who are able to do more rigorous exercises. If that isn't you, start from where you can. Stretching, Pilates, yoga, Tai Chi, gentle exercise, gentle movement, stretching out the body, deep breathing is great to get the blood circulating and the body moving. And then, of course, you have to prioritize your rest. Not just ensuring that you're sleeping at least 8 hours a night, but also managing your energy, thinking about your week, when you're going to expend energy, and when you're going to be able to build in the rest times to recuperate. And the final two things I would like to talk about is mindset and stress reduction. Stress reduction because stress triggers crises. Whether it's stress at work, stress in your personal life, financial stress, wherever the stress comes from, stress has to be mediated to prevent an uptick in crises. Mindset is also very important. We face a lot of challenges having sickle cell, whether it be the physical challenges of dealing with the pain, the fatigue, other complications that happen as a result of sickle cell, but also we face the stresses when we are attempting to get medical care. We face pressures at work, in education, with the benefit system, and it's really important to do our best to keep our mindset strong and to have a positive outlook, because we know that what we think affects how we feel. Reaching out for support is extremely important. Tapping in if your hospital has a sickle cell group, speak to your hematologist. There are local sickle cell groups. There are online sickle cell groups. There's lots of social enterprises and charities that do a lot of work with people who have sickle cell disorders. And it's important to plug into a community where you know that you don't have to explain yourself, where other people know what you're going through. Although sickle cell is a very individual condition, there are just some things that when you're around other warriors, you don't need to explain because they inherently understand. I could talk about sickle cell all day and still miss things that other people would like me to discuss. So in the comments, I would love you to tell me if I've missed anything, if there's any important things that you want me to highlight, and I'll be very happy to jump on and to do another video to address those things. Sickle cell disorder is the most common hemoglobin disorder in the world, and although it affects people worldwide, predominantly it affects Black people. So with this being Black History Month, I would like you to amplify the voices of sickle cell warriors that you know. Go out of your way to find content creators, influencers, people who are into sickle cell advocacy and to amplify their voice. I'm Jael from Cell Based Nutrition, and I'll see you in the next video.